Hello, my snail slaves. Today, we're going to take a closer look at radars in War Thunder. We'll check out how they work, what types there are, their additional modes, and most importantly, how to use them effectively in the game. So let's get into it. First, let's start with the basics. Radar settings. The first thing to set up is turning the radar on and off. Most of the time, you won't need to press this button, so bind it somewhere out of the way. I have mine on a key that doesn't interfere with anything. You can find my exact settings in the description below. Next is the radar's graphical interface. By default, you get a cone shape, but it's not very clear. I recommend switching to a square interface where you can better see the positions of targets around you. Then there's target locking. Set this to an easily accessible button, like a side button on your mouse. I personally use my side mouse button and it's super convenient. Next comes toggling between radar and HMS. This switches the radar to optical mode, which works at a shorter range, usually about 10 kilometers, but lets you more accurately lock onto a target that the regular radar might miss. A very useful feature is adjusting the radar's scanning angle. Most radars look straight ahead, but often you want to look downwards. For example, at an enemy line while climbing. So set up 3 buttons: up, down, and reset. I have mine on the arrow keys, and it works great. The last setting is switching radar modes. You probably won't use this button often, because you usually fly in one mode anyway. So bind it somewhere you won't accidentally press it. Settings are done. Now let's quickly explain how radar actually works. There's a transmitter that sends out a signal. The signal hits an object, and part of it bounces back to the receiver. Based on how much signal returns, the radar evaluates whether it's a target, how big it is, and how fast it's moving. Stealth technology is based on reflecting the signal away from the radar receiver, or completely absorbing it. The radar also filters out things like birds, trees, or hills, so you only see relevant targets, planes, missiles, and sometimes helicopters if you're in the right mode. Now, finally, the part you've been waiting for. Radar types in War Thunder. There are 4 basic radar types: SR, C, TWS, IRST, and HMS. Then there are additional modes like PD, HDN, or GMTI, which we'll cover shortly. SRC, or Synthetic Aperture Radar, is the most basic type of radar that simply scans for targets. But it has a lot of flaws. It can be thrown off by things like terrain, trees, clouds, and other random stuff, which is why it's no longer used on its own today. Instead, it's usually paired with pulse Doppler, but we'll talk about that later. TWS, or Track While Scan, is found on more modern aircraft like the Su-30 or FA-18. Its advantage is that it can track multiple targets simultaneously without the enemy knowing, so you can secretly lock a plane without triggering their RWR. However, tracking multiple targets weakens the connection, and you often lose lock, especially at lower BR where radars aren't as advanced. IRST, Infrared Search and Track, doesn't operate on radio waves, but on heat signatures. The advantage is that it tracks targets even when your radar is off, so the enemy has no idea you're tracking them. It's mostly used in missiles and bombs where it emits no signal and the enemy remains unaware. HMS, or Helmet Mounted Sight, is an optical targeting radar through the pilot's helmet. It's extremely accurate, fast, and very useful in close combat. However, it has a limited range, about 10 kilometers. so it's mainly for dogfights or quick target switching when someone gets behind you. Now for the additional modes, Pulse Doppler filters out ground and slow-moving objects. Thanks to it, you can lock a plane flying low, over terrain, or behind hills. Without it, radar wouldn't show such targets. HDN, High Definition Narrow Beam, is a narrow beam focused on a very small area. Great in crowded skies where you need to pick out one target from a swarm. GMTI, Ground Moving Target Indicator, is designed mainly for tracking moving ground targets, like tanks, armored vehicles, or helicopters flying low. It's more useful for multi-role and KS aircraft than classic dogfighters. A few final tips. Use IRST combined with HMS for quick and silent locks at close range. When attacking low-flying targets, switch radar to Pulse Doppler, and if your target keeps dropping from lock, switch from TWS to classic STT mode. And most importantly, practice. Radar control isn't easy, but once you master it, you gain a huge advantage. That's it for today, my lovely Snail Squad. I hope this video helped you understand radars in War Thunder a bit better, whether you're a beginner trying to get your first lock or a seasoned ace fine-tuning your settings. If you found it helpful or just enjoyed hanging out, don't forget to smash that like button, drop a comment with your own radar tips or questions, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. We've got a lot more content coming, from advanced tutorials, crazy gameplay moments, to deep dives into systems like missiles, stealth tech, and more. So stay tuned, stay sharp, and keep your radar locked. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep it flying high. See you next time, my snails. Peace out, and radar on.